Now then, I thought I'd do a quick video on how to fix a motorcycle carburetor that's developed a fuel leak. I did a video recently and one of the questions I got was, I think it was motor nut. He asked me had I worked on the carburettors and did they need cleaning, and the answer was yes, but I did have a load of problems with a leak on the carbs. So in this video I'll show you some of the things that I did to resolve that leak. Now the first quick fix we can do is as simple as banging on the carburetor. Now what happens is you've got rust and dirt in the fuel, rust from the inside of the tank. It's gone through the fuel line into the fuel bowl and it's got lodged between the shut-off valve and its seat. Now with the fuel turned off, with something as simple as a plastic or a wooden screwdriver, you can hit the fuel bowl area like that. Nothing harder, and certainly not use a hammer. And sometimes that's enough just to dislodge that bit of grit to make it go through the system, and the valve, the shut-off valve, will seat and stop any further leaks. So this is a carburetor off a single cylinder engine. Let's just take this off a minute. So we check it visually all around. Is it cracked, broken, any damage? Is everything working as it should do? We check the fuel lines. Are they good condition? Are they split, perished? Same with the fuel filter, which you should always have. Is the float bowl good and tight? The jet retainer, is that tight? Is this gasket for the float bowl, is that in good condition? So then we look inside. Got another carburetor here for that. So we take the float bowl off. There's a gasket that needs to be checked. Now, one of the main cause for leaking is these floats inside the bowl. Now, has it been punctured? Is it sticking? Does it move freely? And the way it works is that's like that. Obviously the bowl comes off. So as fuel comes in this line here, comes down here and fills this chamber, and would normally get sucked up the jets, etc. But this is the way in. That comes through this float valve here, and as these floats go up and down with the amount of fuel in, when they reach a certain height, the valve in there is supposed to shut off the fuel. Now it's that's the main place where the fuel gets where dirt and debris get trapped, and that causes a leak. Or these floats have been punctured or got a hole in, let fuel inside there, so they give a wrong reading, so they go to the wrong height, which doesn't shut off the fuel. So inside there we take the pin out, the floats are either brass sometimes the plastic, even the plastic ones can get a hole in. So this float going up or down is what shuts off the fuel. Now if I take away the float, the fuel valve consists of two parts. Now most carburettors you can unscrew the whole assembly like that. And what it consists of is a plain bore brass plug with a smaller hole in the bottom, and a plunger that's got usually 4 sides relieved for the fuel to go past. But its main part, or its main function, is this cone on the end. Now when that's pressed down by the float, there's a little spring loaded plunger there. But when the tab on the float presses it down, that's enough to shut off that valve and stop the fuel passing through this little hole. Now sometimes the little tab on the float is what's the problem. Now this one isn't bendable, so you can't adjust those, not without heating it up and forcing it in some way. But a lot of them have a little tab, and the idea is that with a pair of pliers you can gently tweak that little brass tab so that when those floats go up and down, that it shuts off the fuel. So fuel enters the bottom chamber, raises the float, and it shuts off the valve, pretty much like your toilet system does. Now it is adjustable. There is a little brass tab that you can adjust, and your manual will tell you a distance, normally from this face here to the bottom of the float, and that's the distance that it should shut off that valve. So this is a quick doodle of what the valve looks like. This is the brass valve here, this is the plunger with the cone, there's your tab pressing the plunger up and down, this is your float bowl, there's the fuel. So as the fuel goes up, pushes the plunger up. Now if there's a piece of debris, grit, whatever, this cone won't block off this aperture here, and the fuel will just constantly run. Another important component to check is the top diaphragm, if they're CV carburettors, because they're reliant on a vacuum being created in the top chamber. So you have to check that this diaphragm has got no splits or tears in it. Now you can just gently ease it away from the slide. Don't be yanking at it, you know, it's not your wife's knicker gusset. Just enough to make sure that it's not got a rip in it. See, this one has got a rip. I don't know whether you can see that, and that ain't gonna work. Right, so getting back to the problem I had with my carburettors, I cleaned my carbs with the likes of carburetor cleaner, you know, and all the jets, ports, etc. Blew them all out with an airline. Replaced all the seals and gaskets. I even invested in an ultrasonic cleaning tank. It's only cheap and nasty from Aldi or Lidl. It's supposed to be for your jewellery or your spectacles, but I put all my carburettor parts, jets, valves, needles, etc. in there. Bit of cleaning solution. Switch it on, zzz, let it buzz away for 5 minutes. Does the job, great. So yeah, I did all that, put the cars back together very carefully, put them back on the bike, and the bloody fuel leaked again. Took them all off, cleaned them apart, cleaned it, took it apart, put it back, and it still leaked. So again, I took it all apart and investigated each carburettor individually, and it turned out number one was leaking, and it turned out to be this little float valve. So I only discovered that this valve was leaking because I used a jeweller's loop, jeweller's eyeglass, some extra light, and looked at every single part, and I noticed that one of the valves, there was marks on it as though someone had you know, a piece of wire or a needle or something down this valve, and he must have scratched it or marked it. And it turns out that this little plunger wasn't sealing the valve, and it was leaking past on the scratch. It was the tiniest of scratches, but it was enough to make the fuel leak. So this scratch was on the corner of this hole here, and it was stopping this cone from sealing. So the problem I had with my carburettors was the fact that the valve seat, like that, on this bank of carburettors is pressed in. They're not removable. Well, you can, but you can't buy the replacement part. So I needed to recut the seat for this tiny little valve down there in situ, because I can't replace that. Whereas these smaller carburettors, I can just go and replace that part, but these ones I couldn't. So I needed to devise a way of recutting that seat. Now that seat is similar to the poppet valve on your cylinder head. You've got a crude cone there in the cylinder head, and this is going up and down. And if that's not sealing, you recut the seat, or you clean it up with a bit of lapping paste. So I needed to do the same with this small valve. So to clean the valve seat, I got a piece of wooden dowel. I used a narrow, and with this in the vise, I basically just ground that into a nice cylindrical shape on that end. At the other end I did the same with my dowel, and on this end I put a slight cone. So first of all, let's get rid of that. As crude as it is, I had to put the carburettors between my knee, but you can put it in the vise or whatever, and I used a bit of tea cut. Just dip it in and wipe off the excess. You don't want too much on. And I just ground the wood till it's a nice snug fit, and with just a few rotations you clean up the walls or the cylinder of the valve seat. And again on the other end with the cone, again bit of tea cut down the hole, and just like you're lapping in your valves on your cylinder head, just a few twists, pull it out, then if you can with a Q-tip or whatever, clean it, have a little look, there's a scratch gone, if not, a bit more, and that'll be it. That was purely enough to clean that valve seat, and you could see a nice brass clean ring down in the bottom, so that when the cone of the plunger was down in its seat, it fully blocked off the fuel. So after all that waffle, all I was trying to get across to you is that I fixed an otherwise unserviceable component with as little as a piece of softwood and a bit of metal polish and a bit of ingenuity. I've stopped these carburettors from leaking. Now I'm sorry it's been a long-winded video. It's not easy to get across some of the smaller parts with the basic camera, but again, thanks for sticking with us, and I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks.